Now, the final thing to talk about is not set up in the formula entry, but I would recommend setting it up against each individual item. And what I'm referring to here now is packaging labor or overhead. The idea behind this is that different packaging items, cans versus bottles versus kegs, have got different application rates, or it takes different periods of time to actually package. So in this case, what I would do, this is again setting up of the end item, and it's in the subcomponent section where you define how an item is made, just below the bill of material where you set up what the packaging is. Right here, I would have a packaging cost ID. Honestly, I'd probably get a little more specific than this. I might say something like canning, bottling, kegging, but right now I've just got packaging. And what I'm doing now is defining the, the cost per unit that I'm wanting to apply. I'll talk about that in a second. So here's my cost per unit that I want to apply, and here's the GL account like we were looking at earlier. So now what I'm doing is applying the number of units per case. So there are a couple of ways you could look at this. You could add the cost per case right here, and this is my cost per case. In other words, it doesn't matter what I'm filling. If I'm putting a case of cans on hand, here's my cost per case that I'm putting in, and therefore my unit here would be 1. Or I can look at this as a time period. How long does it take for me to actually create one case? So now I can think in terms of actually hours. So now I'm saying this is $8.50 an hour that I'm applying to my can line. Either way you want to go, you get to the same results. The magic here is on runtime. Set this up as runtime. And what this means is the system will apply this unit per case that I'm making versus setup would be fixed in nature. It's just no matter how many cans I'm going to run, it would be the same mate. So you want this to be runtime, which is exactly opposite of what we did in the brewing and the fermentation. Now what that looks like then in batch entry, it's the same thing. If I come in and pick up a packaging log, I've got multiple end items listed out here. I probably have got my cans, I do. And in my cans, I've got my bill of material. But also what you should be looking at is down in my additional costs. We've been mostly looking against the formula in the brew and the fermentation. We're looking right here. Here is the cost of the canning. There's my standard rate. As the system starts calculating the actual number of cans that I'm putting on hand, it will go and look at the application rate of this item and actually apply the cost that we were just talking about. So in this case, I'm going to put on hand, say 400 units. It will go and calculate the amount of time that it should take for that and go do an issue now for that number. Of course, you can come in and change that value. This might be hours or whatever, machine hours. This is the quantity that will actually get applied, and it's actually being applied right here is where that's going. So the point here is that I can add labor, additional cost, at a variable basis depending on how I'm packaging. You would probably have a different standard, either hours or cost per unit for canning, bottling, and kegging. And I would probably actually have different cost IDs out of a bottling ID versus a canning ID is probably how I would do that in real implementation. So that's the costing piece of costing setup. I got to the additional cost each time by double clicking on one of these additional cost IDs. Just know that you can also get to that same screen through setup, application, and additional costs. It brings you to the exact same screen. You can create additional costs here and they'll be available to apply against a formula or a component. Hope that helps, and feel free to ask any other questions you got regarding labor overhead or additional costs.